The listing appeared on a Tuesday. Commercial property, downtown location, 8,400 square feet, $2.1 million asking price. Professional photos showed the brick facade, the renovated interior, the parking lot I'd repaved 2 years ago for $40,000. My building. The one I'd purchased in 2012 for $890,000. The listing agent was my Uncle Rich's golf buddy. The sellers were listed as the Morrison Family Trust. I'd never heard of it. I clicked through to the property description. Prime downtown location, fully leased, excellent cash flow, family-owned for over a decade. Family-owned. Technically true. Owned by one family member. Me. I'd bought the building when I was 29, using my software company's first major exit. My parents thought I was crazy. Too young for commercial real estate, Dad said. You'll lose everything. Uncle Rich had laughed outright. Stick to computers, kid. Leave real estate to people who understand it. 12 years later, the building generated $18,000 monthly from 3 retail tenants. I'd increased its value by $1.2 million through strategic improvements and excellent tenant management. And now my family was selling it. I called the listing agent directly. I'm inquiring about 847 Morrison Street. Fantastic property, he said smoothly. Family's been sitting on this gold mine for years. Finally ready to cash out. I've got 3 serious buyers already. This'll go fast. Who authorized the listing? The Morrison Family Trust. Richard Morrison is the primary contact. All the family members are co-owners, but Rich is handling the transaction. I let the silence stretch. I see. And you verified the ownership how? Standard process. They provided trust documents, signed listing agreements. Everything's in order. Did you run a title search? That happens during escrow. Once we have a buyer. I thanked him and hung up. Then I opened my fireproof safe and pulled out the deed. Recorded with the county on March 15, 2012. My name alone as sole owner. No trust. No co-owners. Just me. I photographed every page. The original purchase agreement. The title insurance policy from 2012. The property tax statements. All in my name. The mortgage payoff letter from 2016 when I'd paid off the building completely. 12 years of documentation. Then I called Meridian Title Company, the firm that had handled my original purchase. Asked for Susan Alvarez, the title officer who'd closed my deal. I need a current ownership verification, I told her. 847 Morrison Street. And I need to know if anyone has filed any claims or liens against it. Give me 20 minutes. Susan called back in 15. You're still the sole owner of record. No liens, no claims, no encumbrances. Clean title, same as 2012. Why? Someone's trying to sell it. Her tone shifted immediately. Someone other than you? My uncle. He's listed it for $2.1 million. Says there's a family trust. There is no family trust on record. If he's representing himself as having authority to sell your property, that's fraud. Serious fraud. What do I do? File a complaint with the county recorder immediately. I'll flag the property in our system. Any title company that runs a search will see there's a dispute. And you need to contact that listing agent today. If he proceeds with a sale knowing there's a title issue, he loses his license. I called the listing agent back. This is Alex Morrison again. I'm the actual owner of 847 Morrison Street. Sole owner. I have the deed, the title insurance, 12 years of tax payments. Whatever my uncle told you is false. Silence. Then, can you send me documentation? I emailed everything while we were still on the phone. Watched him open the attachments in real time. Jesus Christ, he muttered. He showed me trust documents. Signatures from multiple family members. I have a listing agreement signed by 6 people. All forged, I'm guessing. I'm pulling the listing immediately. And I'm calling my broker. He paused. Mr. Morrison, you should know. Your uncle has been showing this property to buyers for 2 weeks. He's accepted a verbal offer. $2.05 million. The buyers are preparing their earnest money. My hands went cold. How much earnest money? $50,000. Refundable, but still. These are serious buyers. Stop everything. No. I'll handle this. I drove to the building. My building. Found Uncle Rich in the parking lot with a well-dressed couple pointing out features. Excellent traffic flow, he was saying. Prime visibility from 2 streets. The previous owner really underutilized the space. I parked and walked over. Hi, Uncle Rich. He went pale. Recovered quickly. Alex. What a surprise. Just showing some potential buyers the property. High property. The couple looked confused. Rich's smile tightened. We should discuss this privately. No. Let's discuss it right here. I pulled out my phone, opened the deed photo. Showed it to the buyers. I'm the sole owner. Purchased 2012. Never authorized any sale. This man has no legal authority to sell this building. The woman's face hardened. Is this true? Rich's voice rose. This is a family property. We all have ownership stakes. Alex is just being difficult because he wants a bigger cut of the proceeds. Show them your deed, I said calmly. I don't carry that around. Because it doesn't exist. Show them the trust documents. They're with my attorney. Who's your attorney? He couldn't answer. The couple was already walking to their car. Rich waited until they drove away. Then he grabbed my arm. Do you know what you just did? They were offering $2.05 million. Above asking. We could have split that 6 ways. Instead, you've got this building sitting here barely making you anything. It makes me $18,000 monthly. $216,000 annually. Why would I sell? Because family shares. Dad left you that seed money for the down payment. Dad loaned me $50,000 in 2012. I paid him back with interest in 2014. I have the canceled checks. His face reddened. You're going to regret this. I drove straight to the county recorder's office. Filed a formal complaint. They assigned an investigator, Maria Chin, who called me that afternoon. We pulled the documents your uncle submitted to the listing agent, she said. He created a family trust in 2011, 1 year before you purchased the property. According to his paperwork, your grandfather established the trust and placed 847 Morrison Street into it. My grandfather died in 2009. Exactly. We also found 6 quitclaim deeds supposedly signed by you, transferring portions of your ownership to family members. Dates ranging from 2013 to 2024. My stomach dropped. I never signed anything. We compared the signatures to your real signature from the original 2012 deed. They don't match. Not even close. He forged 6 separate deeds over 11 years. Why didn't anyone catch this? He never recorded them with the county. He kept them private, showed them only to people he was trying to convince. The listing agent, potential buyers, probably family members. As far as official records show, you're still the sole owner. What happens now? We've referred this to the district attorney. Document forgery, attempted fraud, possibly identity theft. But there's more. We ran a comprehensive search on your uncle's name. He did this before. He sent me a PDF. Property records from another county. Different building, different family member. Uncle Rich had forged deeds and attempted to sell his sister's rental property in 2008. She'd discovered it but dropped the charges after family pressure. He'd received probation. He's a serial forger, I said quietly. Yes. And because this is a second offense with 12 years of documented forgery, the DA is taking it very seriously. That evening my phone exploded. Mom, how could you report your uncle to the police? Dad, you're tearing this family apart over a building. My brother, Rich, has 3 kids in college. Think about them. Only my sister Jen texted differently. He tried to do this to my rental house last year. I caught him before he could list it. I'm sorry I didn't warn you. The family meeting happened Sunday. 15 people crammed into my parents' living room. Uncle Rich sat in the corner, defiant. Mom spoke first. We need to resolve this without police involvement. Rich made a mistake. 12 years of forgery isn't a mistake, I interrupted. He created fake trust documents. Forged my signature 6 times. Listed my property without permission. Accepted an offer. If that sale had closed, I would have lost a $2.1 million asset. The family should share in the property wealth, Dad said. We all contributed to your success. You loaned me $50,000. I paid you back $63,000. That's not contribution. That's a transaction. Uncle Rich finally spoke. You don't understand what it's like watching you sit on millions while the rest of us struggle. Struggle? You drive a BMW. You belong to a country club. That's all going away now thanks to you. No. That's going away because you committed fraud. My cousin Sarah, Rich's daughter, started crying. Dad just wanted to help us. College is expensive. Then he should have asked me, I said. I would have helped. Instead, he tried to steal from me. The room erupted. Half the family screaming about loyalty. The other half silent, uncomfortable. Jen caught my eye and mouthed, "Leave." I left. The DA's investigation took 6 weeks. They interviewed the listing agent, the potential buyers, the family members who supposedly signed the quitclaim deeds. Examined the forged documents with forensic specialists. Traced the creation of the fake family trust. Assistant District Attorney James Walsh called me in July. Your uncle has been charged with 6 counts of forgery, 1 count of attempted fraud, and 1 count of identity theft. Given his prior conviction, he's looking at mandatory prison time if convicted. What's he saying? That he genuinely believed there was a family trust. That his father, your grandfather, told him about it before he died. That the documents were real. His father died 3 years before the trust was supposedly created. We know. We showed him the death certificate. He couldn't explain it. Walsh paused. We're offering a deal. Plea to 3 counts of forgery, 2 years in prison, 5 years probation after release. Full restitution for your legal fees and lost rental income during this mess. And a permanent restraining order preventing him from any involvement with your property. Will he take it? His attorney is advising him to. The alternative is a trial where we prove 12 years of systematic fraud. He'd get 5 to 7 years. Uncle Rich accepted the plea deal in August. The sentencing hearing was brief. The judge reviewed the evidence, the prior conviction, the calculated nature of the forgery. Mr. Morrison, you didn't make one mistake, the judge said. You made 6 spread over more than a decade. You exploited family trust to commit systematic fraud. 2 years in state prison, 5 years probation, $47,000 restitution to your nephew. Rich looked at me as they led him away. No apology. Just cold fury. The family fractured completely. Dad stopped speaking to me. Mom called occasionally, always about forgiveness and second chances. My siblings split. Jen and my brother Mike supported me. The others sided with Rich. 3 months later, I received a letter from the title company. They'd completed a comprehensive forensic search of my property's history. Found additional forged documents Rich had created but never used. Quitclaim deeds giving him power of attorney. Fake refinancing paperwork. A forged will from my grandfather leaving the building to all grandchildren equally. 12 years of fraud. Systematic. Calculated. Professional. I refinanced the building in October. Used the cash out to buy a second commercial property in a different county. Put that one in an LLC with Jen as backup. Changed all my passwords. Added alerts to my credit reports. Hired a property attorney on retainer. Uncle Rich will be released in 2 years. I've already filed for a permanent restraining order. He can't come within 500 feet of me or any property I own. Can't contact me directly or through family members. Can't access public records with my name. The building is still generating $18,000 monthly. I raised the rent last quarter. Improved the parking lot lighting. Added security cameras. Every month I get a restitution payment. $1,958.33 for 24 months. His prison wages, garnished automatically. It goes into the property maintenance fund. His fraud, quite literally funding the building's improvements. The family thinks I'm vindictive. The nephew who sent his uncle to prison over a building. The son who chose property over blood. But I didn't choose property over family. I chose protection over exploitation. He had 12 years to ask for help. He chose forgery instead. The building is mine. The deed says so. The title company confirms it. The court agrees. And now, finally, so does everyone else.
I never planned to keep my success a secret. Growing up in a small fishing village in Thailand, I learned the value of hard work from my parents, who ran a modest seaside restaurant. But life had other plans, and those plans would lead to one of the most dramatic confrontations of my life. Lena, Customer needs you. My mother would call out when I was 12, and I'd rush to help serve fresh seafood to tourists who visited our little piece of paradise. Many of them stayed at the luxury resort on the neighboring island, taking day trips to experience authentic local life. That resort would change my life, though not in the way anyone expected. One day, a guest named Richard Maxwell, a prominent hotel developer, tasted my mother's special tom yum soup. He was so impressed that he began visiting regularly, not just for the food, but to talk business with my parents. Your daughter has a gift for hospitality, he told them, watching me effortlessly switch between Thai, English, and Mandarin while serving customers. She understands both luxury and authenticity. Let me sponsor her education. My parents were hesitant, but Richard's offer was genuine. He'd lost his own daughter years ago and saw potential in me. With his support, I attended international schools, then Cornell's hotel administration program. By 25, I had an MBA and a vision to transform struggling island resorts into sustainable luxury destinations that benefited local communities. Richard became my mentor and silent partner. Together, we built Pristine Island Holdings with me as the secret CEO. Let them underestimate you, he advised. It's your superpower. Then I met James Chen at an investment conference in Singapore. That's an interesting perspective on sustainable luxury, he said after my presentation, not knowing how was the CEO. Would you like to discuss it over coffee? Coffee led to dinner, dinner led to love, and 6 months later, we were married in a simple ceremony. James was kind, brilliant, and seemed different from his ultra-wealthy Chinese-American family. Then I met his mother, Eleanor Chen. A Thai girl? She said during our first meeting, eyeing me like I was something stuck to her Louboutin heel. James, darling, couldn't you find someone more suitable? James squeezed my hand but said nothing, the first of many silences that would chip away at our marriage. I kept my business success private, maintaining my role as a hospitality consultant while secretly running a billion-dollar company. Richard supported my decision, especially after seeing how Eleanor treated me. Things came to a head during the Chen family's annual vacation. Eleanor chose one of our resort islands in the Maldives, ironically, one I'd acquired last year. The presidential villa for us, Eleanor announced at check-in, and the basic beach cottage for James and her. She didn't even say my name. The staff, who knew exactly who I was but were under strict instructions to maintain my privacy, kept their professional smiles. Mother, James protested weakly, we can afford the villa. Nonsense. Eleanor cut him off. You need to save money now that you're supporting certain people. She glanced at me meaningfully. I bit my tongue and accepted the cottage. The staff secretly upgraded us to a water villa, but Eleanor's behavior only worsened. At dinner, she seated me at the far end of the table. During activities, she forgot to include me. Every interaction was laced with subtle digs about my background. It must be so different from your little village, she'd say sweetly. Do they even have electricity there? James would flush with embarrassment but say nothing. The breaking point came during an island-hopping excursion. Eleanor had arranged a private boat tour, making sure to remind everyone how expensive it was. We stopped at a small private island. My private island, though they didn't know that. It was under development with just a few staff buildings and basic facilities. Let's explore, Eleanor announced. While everyone scattered across the beach, I stayed behind to answer an urgent business call. 20 minutes later, I looked up to find myself alone. The boat was gone. My phone rang. It was James. Lena, he sounded panicked. Mother said you wanted to stay on the island for some authentic village experience and told the boat to leave. I tried to stop them, but what, James? I asked quietly. Mother said you'd insulted her earlier, that you needed to learn a lesson. I heard Eleanor's voice in the background. A few hours in her natural habitat will do her good. Maybe she'll finally understand she doesn't belong in our world. James's voice came back, weak and apologetic. The boat will come back before dark. Mother insists. I hung up, looking around at my natural habitat, the island I'd bought for $45 million last year. I couldn't help but laugh. Then I pulled out my satellite phone. Mr. Patel, this is Lena. Initiate Protocol Alpha on Paradise Island immediately. And please ask Richard to make some calls. It's time. Within minutes, hidden security teams emerged from the staff buildings. The island's hidden infrastructure hummed to life, and surveillance drones took flight. "Ma'am," my head of security approached. "Your helicopter will be here in 20 minutes. Shall we prepare the main villa?" "Yes," I said, a small smile playing on my lips. "And contact resort security. When that boat returns, I want every person on it detained for trespassing on private property. Even your husband, ma'am." I thought about James's weak protests, his years of silence. Especially my husband. As the sun began to set over my little island, I watched the security monitors as Eleanor's boat approached. Time to show them exactly what kind of world I belonged in. And this time, I wouldn't be the one learning a lesson. The security feed showed Eleanor's boat approaching the island's private dock. Through the high-resolution cameras, I could see her smug smile as she prepared to rescue me after my lesson. "Ma'am," my head of security, Kane, reported. "They're about to dock. How would you like to proceed?" I smoothed down my simple sundress, the one Eleanor had earlier called quaint village wear, and smiled. "Let's give them the welcome they deserve." As the boat docked, armed security teams emerged from hidden positions. Eleanor's smile vanished as guards surrounded the vessel. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, ma'am," Kane replied coldly. "You're trespassing on private property. Everyone off the boat. Now." James tried to intervene. "There must be some mistake. My wife is on this island." "Your wife," Kane said, "is waiting for you at the main villa." "Main villa?" Eleanor scoffed. "This is an undeveloped island. There's nothing here but—" Her voice trailed off as the camouflage panels covering the hillside began to retract, revealing a stunning modern compound built into the landscape. "This way," Kane directed, leaving them no choice but to follow. They were led up a winding path to the villa's grand entrance, where I waited in the open-air lobby. Richard stood beside me, a protective hand on my shoulder. "Welcome to Paradise Island," I said calmly. "My island." The silence was deafening. Eleanor recovered first. "What nonsense is this? James, your wife has lost her mind." Actually, Richard stepped forward. "Lena is telling the truth. As CEO of Pristine Island Holdings, she owns not just this island, but the resort you're staying at, and 12 others across Asia." "CEO?" James whispered. "But you said you were a consultant." "And you believe that," I replied, "because it fit your family's narrative about me, the simple village girl who married above her station." Eleanor's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. "This is impossible. That company is worth billions. 4.8 billion to be exact," Richard supplied helpfully. "Lena built it from the ground up. I should know. I've been her mentor and partner since she was 12. James took a step toward me. "Lena, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered?" I asked quietly. "Would it have made you stand up to your mother when she humiliated me, when she seated me at the servants' table, when she abandoned me on this island?" I had tried to. "No," I cut him off. "You didn't try," he watched, "just like you've been watching for 2 years." Eleanor suddenly switched tactics, her voice honey-sweet. "Lena, darling, this was all a misunderstanding. We were coming right back for you. After teaching you my place, I raised an eyebrow. Let me show you something." I gestured to a large screen where security footage played, Eleanor instructing the boat captain to leave, laughing about leaving me in my natural habitat, making cruel jokes about the village girl finally learning her lesson. "Congratulations, Eleanor," I said softly. "Lesson learned." "What? What are you going to do?" she stammered. "Well, first, you're all banned from every Pristine Holdings property worldwide. That's 36 luxury resorts you'll never set foot in again." Eleanor gasped. They were her favorite vacation spots. "Second, I'm filing charges for endangerment and criminal trespassing. Abandoning someone on what you thought was an undeveloped island? That's a serious offense." "You wouldn't dare," she sputtered. "The scandal would destroy the Chen family's social standing." I finished. "Yes, it would. Funny how karma works." James finally found his voice. "Lena, please, we can work this out. Now that I know about your success." "That's exactly the problem," I interrupted. "My worth shouldn't be measured by my bank account. A real husband would have defended his wife regardless of her status." Richard cleared his throat. "The papers have been prepared, Lena. Your choice." I nodded. James, you'll be receiving divorce papers tomorrow. Don't worry. I don't want any of the Chin family money. I have plenty of my own. Divorce? Eleanor shrieked. You ungrateful. Careful, Richard warned. Everything you say is being recorded. Haven't you embarrassed your family enough? Security began escorting them out. Eleanor's designer heels sank into the sand as she stumbled along, a far cry from her earlier confident strut. Wait, James called back. At least let us take the boat. I smiled sweetly. Oh, that boat. I bought it an hour ago. You'll have to take the public ferry, assuming you can afford the ticket. Later that evening, I stood on my villa's balcony, watching the sunset paint the ocean gold. Richard joined me, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. Your parents would be proud, he said softly, not of the revenge, though that was spectacular, but of how you've never lost sight of who you are. I thought about the small restaurant where I'd learned my first lessons about hospitality, about my parents who taught me that true worth isn't in what you own, but in how you treat others. The next morning, I called a board meeting. We're starting a new initiative, I announced, the Pristine Future Program. We'll identify promising students from local communities and provide them with education and mentorship in hospitality management. Like Richard did for you? Someone asked. Exactly. Success shouldn't be a secret weapon. It should be a ladder we extend to others. 6 months later, I stood in my childhood village announcing the program's first class of students. My parents beamed from the front row as 20 young people received their scholarships. Eleanor and James sent messages through mutual friends, attempting to reconcile now that my true status was known. I donated their favorite presidential villa to a children's charity instead of responding. The island where Eleanor abandoned me? It's now the Pristine Academy, training the next generation of hospitality leaders from across Asia. Students learn in the same villa where I revealed my truth, their dreams nurtured by the same ocean breeze that carried away my past. Sometimes I teach classes there, sharing not just business knowledge but life lessons. Your worth isn't in your wealth. Your power isn't in your position. Your strength isn't in your status. It's all in how you rise when others try to sink you. As for Eleanor, last I heard, she was blacklisted from every major luxury resort in Asia. Apparently, most high-end hospitality groups don't appreciate clients who abandon people on islands. Karma, as they say, has a reservation system all its own. And mine? It's fully booked with something far more valuable than revenge. The chance to transform natural habitats into nurturing havens for the next generation of dreamers. Because sometimes the best way to prove them wrong isn't to show them your power. It's to show others their own. The boardroom fell silent as David slid the documents across the polished table, his smile growing wider with each passing second. I picked up the papers, already knowing what I'd find. Take your time reading them, Alex, he said, leaning back in his chair. I want you to fully appreciate just how thoroughly I've beaten you. My name is Alexander Chin, and at 35, I was watching my younger brother attempt his masterpiece of betrayal, stealing the tech company I'd built from the ground up. I scanned the documents, keeping my expression neutral. Transfer of ownership forms, board resolutions, shareholder agreements, all meticulously crafted to transfer control of Chen Tech Solutions to David Chen. 2 years, he said, practically bouncing with excitement. It took me 2 years to put all the pieces in place. All those late nights you thought I was working to help the company, I was actually working to take it. I set the papers down and looked at my brother. At 32, he still had the same smugness he'd shown as a kid when he thought he'd outsmarted everyone. Some things never change. Well? He prompted when I didn't immediately respond. Nothing to say. I straightened my tie. Just one question. Have you checked the patents? His smile faltered slightly. What about them? They're company property, which means they're mine now. I allowed myself a small smile. Are you sure about that? The seed of doubt I just planted was visible in his eyes, but he covered it quickly with a laugh. Nice try, Alex, but I've thought of everything. Every asset, every contract, every piece of intellectual property. It's all mine now. The other board members, all people David had carefully selected and positioned over the past 2 years, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They knew they were witnessing something ugly, but their loyalty had been bought and paid for. You know, David, I said, standing up slowly, I always wondered if you'd try something like this. Ever since we were kids, you couldn't stand that I built something successful without you. He snorted. Built something. Please, you got lucky with one good idea in college. I'm the one who turned it into a real company. Is that what you tell yourself? Chentech Solutions had started in my dorm room 12 years ago. One algorithm, one idea that I knew could change the way companies handled data security. I brought David in 3 years later, after our parents insisted I give my struggling younger brother a chance. I deserve this company more than you do, he said, his voice taking on that whining tone I remembered from childhood. I'm better at business, better with people. You're just a programmer who got lucky. I picked up my briefcase, feeling the weight of the real documents inside, the ones David didn't know about. We'll see about that. Meeting adjourned. That's it. David called after me as I walked toward the door. No fight? No threats? Just walking away from everything you built? I paused at the doorway. Sometimes, little brother, walking away is just the first step of a longer journey. The next morning, I drove to my lawyer's office instead of Chentech's gleaming headquarters. Susan Martinez had been my legal counsel since the company's early days, and more importantly, she was one of the few people who knew what was really going on. I take it he made his move, she asked as I settled into the chair across from her desk. I nodded. Just like we predicted, right down to the dramatic boardroom reveal. She pulled out a thick folder. And the patents? He hasn't checked them yet. But he will. Susan smiled. When he does, he's in for quite a surprise. 2 years ago, when I first noticed David's unusual interest in our shareholder structure, I'd started preparing. Small changes, careful movements, all designed to appear as normal business operations. While David had been orchestrating his takeover, I'd been orchestrating something else entirely. The new company is ready, Susan said, pushing a set of documents toward me. Quantum Core Technologies is officially incorporated, with all the key patents already transferred and registered. I picked up the papers, remembering the night I first suspected David's betrayal. It had been during a family dinner, of all places. Flashback, 2 years ago. You're working too hard, Alex, our mother said, passing the dumplings across the table. You should let David handle more of the business side. I watched my brother's expression carefully. There was something in his eyes, a gleam I recognized from our childhood when he was plotting something. Actually, David said, helping himself to the dumplings, I've been thinking about taking on more responsibility. You know, lightening the load for my overworked big brother. Our father beamed. That's the spirit. You two working together, building the family legacy. But I knew better. David had never been interested in building anything together. He'd always wanted to be the star, the leader, the success story. Later that night, I made 2 calls. The first was to Susan, asking her to quietly begin the process of securing our most valuable patents under my personal ownership rather than the company's. The second was to Dr. Patel, my old professor and mentor. I need your help, I told him, and I need absolute discretion. Over the next 6 months, while David thought I was focusing on our current projects, I was actually developing something new, something revolutionary. The quantum encryption algorithm that would make our existing technology look obsolete. I worked nights, weekends, anytime I could steal away without raising suspicion. Dr. Patel provided the quantum computing expertise while I handled the encryption architecture. Meanwhile, David grew bolder. He started having private meetings with board members, making subtle changes to reporting structures, shifting key personnel into positions that would support his takeover. I let him think I didn't notice. Every time he made a move, I made a counter move so subtle he never saw it coming. The thing about David, I explained to Susan during one of our strategy sessions, is that he's always underestimated me. He thinks because I'm quiet, because I focus on the technical side, that I don't understand the business game he's playing. Susan nodded, making notes. And that's our advantage. Exactly. He's so focused on taking what exists, he's not watching what's being created. The hardest part was maintaining normalcy. Every day, I went to the office, ran the company, and pretended not to see the betrayal unfolding around me. I had lunch with David, discussed projects, played the role of the oblivious older brother. Some days, watching him smile and plan my downfall, I felt a deep sadness. We'd been close once, before success and jealousy created this chasm between us. I remembered teaching him to code when he was in high school, staying up late helping him with his computer science homework. But that brother was gone, replaced by someone who saw my success as a personal insult, my achievements as something to be stolen rather than celebrated. So I built my contingency plans, secured my patents, and developed the next generation of our technology, all while letting David think he was the clever one, the mastermind orchestrating my downfall. Present day. Everything's in place, Susan confirmed, bringing me back to the present. The moment he tries to access the patent documentation, he'll discover that the core technology belongs to you personally, not Chentech. And the new quantum encryption patents are already safely registered to Quantum Core Technologies. I stood up, straightening my jacket. How long do you think it will take him to figure it out? She glanced at her watch. Given his usual morning routine, I'd say he's discovering it right about. My phone buzzed. David's name flashed on the screen. Now, Susan finished with a smile. I let it ring. David could wait a little longer. After all, he'd spent 2 years planning my downfall. He could spend a few hours realizing just how badly he'd miscalculated. What's your next move? Susan asked as I headed for the door. I paused, thinking about the office I'd left behind, the company I'd built, and the brother who thought he could take it all with a few signatures. Now, I said, we show him what real business strategy looks like. As I drove away from Susan's office, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. David had progressed from calls to texts. What did you do? Call me now. This isn't POSIBL. How did you hide this? I smiled, pulling into the parking lot of a small cafe. The same one where I'd written the first lines of code for Chentech 12 years ago. It seemed fitting to be here now. Finally, I answered his call. What the hell is going on? David's voice was shrill with panic. The patents. The knock. How did you? Take a breath, little brother, I said calmly. Use complete sentences. The core security algorithms, the encryption protocols, they're all registered under your name personally, not the company's. This isn't legal. Actually, it's perfectly legal. Check the licensing agreements. Chentech has been paying you licensing fees for years. It's all there in the financial records you apparently didn't review carefully enough. The silence on the other end was deafening. But that means, I finished for him, that you now own a company with no proprietary technology. Just a bunch of offices and equipment. Congratulations on your hostile takeover of an empty shell. I heard something crash in the background. David throwing things, no doubt. Some things never changed. You can't do this, he shouted. I'll sue you. I'll. Sue me for what? For protecting my intellectual property? For licensing it legally to the company? Go ahead. Every judge in the country will uphold my rights as the patent holder. More crashing sounds. I waited patiently for him to run out of things to throw. Oh, and David, there's one more thing you should know. What? He snarled. Check your email. I just sent you something interesting. I heard clicking sounds as he opened his computer, then dead silence. The email contained the press release going out in 1 hour, announcing the launch of Quantum Core Technologies and its revolutionary quantum encryption system. Technology that would make Chentech's existing systems obsolete within months. No, he whispered. No. Yes, I said quietly. While you were plotting to take over Chentech, I was building its replacement. Every major client we have has already seen demonstrations. They're just waiting for the official launch to sign new contracts. You played me, he said, his voice hollow. This whole time. I learned from the best, little brother. You taught me that family can't be trusted, so I planned accordingly. I could almost see him slumping in what used to be my office chair, the weight of his miscalculation crushing him. What do you want? He asked finally. To buy back Chentech? Name your price. I laughed softly. Buy back an obsolete company? Why would I want that? No, David. You wanted Chentech so badly, it's yours. Enjoy watching it become worthless as every client switches to quantum encryption. You're destroying everything. No, you did that when you decided to betray your own brother. I'm just ensuring my survival. Something you taught me the importance of. I ended the call and sat back, sipping my coffee. Within an hour, the press release would go out. By the end of the day, Chentech's stock would be in freefall as investors realized the company no longer owned its core technology. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from our mother. What have you done to your brother? He's devastated. I typed back, Ask him what he did to me first. Then we can talk about devastation. Another message came through, this one from our father. Family should stick together. This isn't right. I thought about all the family dinners where they praised David's business acumen while dismissing my technical stuff. How they'd always push me to give him more control, more responsibility, more recognition. You're right, I replied. Family should stick together. Remember that next time one of your sons tries to steal everything from the other. The press release went out exactly on schedule. The tech world exploded with excitement over quantum encryption becoming commercially available. Our biggest clients started calling, eager to sign contracts with Quantum Core. And Chentech? By closing bell, its stock had dropped 60%. David's carefully orchestrated takeover had become a Pyrrhic victory. Late that evening, as I sat in my new office overlooking the city, I received one final text from David. I'm sorry. I didn't think you had it in you. I stared at those words for a long time before responding. That was always your problem, David. You never really knew me at all. I put my phone away and turned to the stack of contracts on my desk. Agreements from former Chentech clients ready to switch to Quantum Core. The quantum encryption patents would make me wealthier than Chentech ever had. But more importantly, I'd learned something valuable. Sometimes the best defense isn't fighting back. It's letting your opponent think they've won while you build something better. David got what he wanted, my old company. I got what I needed. Freedom to build something new, without having to watch my back for family betrayal. Sometimes losing everything is just the beginning of building something better.
The mahogany-paneled conference room at Anderson and Brooks law offices felt suffocating as I sat among my grieving family members. My father's portrait loomed over us, his stern expression unchanged even in death. Before we begin, my brother Michael adjusted his Italian silk tie. I think we all know why we're here. Our stepmother Diana nodded, dabbing at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. To honor Richard's wishes, of course. I remained silent, dressed in a simple black dress rather than the designer labels the others wore. My father's old business partner, Thomas, gave me a pitying look. Still working at that little startup, Emma? He asked with fake concern. You know, there's always a place for you in the family business. Entry level, of course. My phone buzzed quietly in my purse. Another acquisition alert, but I ignored it. Let them think what they wanted. She's too busy hunting for a rich husband, Michael smirked. How's that going, sis? Found anyone willing to support your alternative lifestyle? By alternative lifestyle, he meant my choice to leave the family's real estate empire and start my own tech company. Dad had called it my rebellious phase right up until his death. Mr. Harrison will begin the reading shortly, Diana announced, purposefully shifting away from my chair. I'm sure Richard made his expectations clear. The executor, Mr. Harrison, entered with a thick folder. Before we proceed, there are some preliminary matters. Just get to the distribution, Michael interrupted. We all know Dad wouldn't leave the business to someone who abandoned it. I checked my phone again. Final paperwork completed. Parker Technologies' acquisition of Anderson Properties confirmed. Actually, I said quietly, let's hear everything Mr. Harrison has to say. Sometimes the best revenge is letting others write the script of their own downfall. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses. Very well. Shall we begin? My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my CFO. Board meeting in 30 minutes. Shall we announce the Anderson Properties acquisition? I texted back a quick, wait for my signal, as Mr. Harrison began sorting through his papers. First, he said, we should address the matter of Anderson Properties' recent change in ownership. Michael waved dismissively. Just a minor restructuring. Dad wanted to protect the company's assets. Diana nodded knowingly, though I'd caught her frantically searching for information about the company's status last week. She'd been too busy redecorating the mansion to notice the quiet corporate takeover happening right under her nose. Emma, Thomas said condescendingly, you might want to step out for this part. It's rather complex business matter. Oh, I understand corporate acquisitions quite well, I replied mildly, thinking of the dozen companies I'd acquired in the past year alone. Each one carefully hidden behind shell corporations and holding companies, building toward this moment. My father's portrait seemed to glare down at me, remembering our last conversation 6 months ago. A tech startup? That's your grand plan? The real estate empire I built isn't good enough for you. No, Dad, I had said. It's not about good enough. It's about building something of my own. He'd laughed then, that dismissive chuckle that had followed me since childhood. Come back when you fail. There's always a desk job waiting. Now his portrait watched as Mr. Harrison pulled out the final document. The one that would reveal exactly who had failed and who had succeeded. Regarding Anderson Properties, the executor began, there's been a significant development. Michael's phone pinged with a news alert. His face went pale as he read the headline. Sometimes the best foundations are built in silence, while others are too busy mocking the builder to notice. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses again. Shall I continue? I nodded, watching my family's last moments of smug superiority tick away. Please do. Anderson Properties, Mr. Harrison announced, has been acquired by Parker Technologies, through its subsidiary Phoenix Holdings. The silence that followed was deafening. Michael's expensive pen clattered to the floor. That's impossible, Diana sputtered. Richard would never sell. Richard didn't sell, Mr. Harrison interrupted. The board did. After a very compelling offer from Parker Technologies' CEO. He turned to me. Isn't that right, Ms. Parker? The room froze. My father's portrait chose that exact moment to slip from its mounting, crashing to the floor with perfect dramatic timing. What is he talking about? Michael demanded, his face turning an interesting shade of red. Emma doesn't, she can't. I pulled out my tablet, projecting the company's latest valuation onto the conference room wall. Parker Technologies $12.8 billion. Below it, a list of our recent acquisitions with Anderson Properties highlighted at the top. That little startup you've been mocking? I smiled. It's now the parent company of Dad's entire empire. Thomas grabbed for his phone, presumably to verify what he was hearing. But you were just playing with computers. Those computers developed the AI technology now used by every major real estate firm in the country, I explained. Including Anderson Properties. You've been paying me licensing fees for years. You just didn't know it. Diana's perfectly manicured hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. Richard never mentioned. Because he didn't know, I said. I used my mother's maiden name when I founded the company. Dad was too busy dismissing my career choices to notice who was revolutionizing his industry. Michael stood abruptly. This is a joke. Some sick prank. Check your email, I suggested. The board should have just announced the leadership changes. He did. His face went from red to white as he read. Effective immediately, Emma Parker appointed as CEO of Anderson Properties. You can't do this, he whispered. Actually, I can, and I did. I stood, smoothing my simple dress. And about that entry-level position you mentioned? I'm afraid those positions now report to my company. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. There's more. I nodded for him to continue, watching my family's world crumble one revelation at a time. Sometimes the best response to being underestimated is to quietly become unstoppable. Regarding the will, Mr. Harrison continued, Mr. Anderson's final instructions were that the family business should go to the most capable heir. He paused, allowing himself a small smile. Given recent events, that part seems to have resolved itself. But I'm his son. Michael protested. His only son. And I'm his daughter who built a multi-billion-dollar company while you were busy taking 3-hour lunches on the company card, I replied, pulling up his expense reports on my tablet. Speaking of which, those lunches will need to be reviewed by our new compliance team. Diana stood, her designer dress rustling. Richard promised me a seat on the board? I finished. Yes, about that. The new board structure was approved this morning. You might want to check your inbox. She fumbled with her phone, her face crumpling as she read the notification of her removal. The mansion's keys and credit cards would be next. The house, she began, is company property, I confirmed. Though you're welcome to stay. The new corporate housing initiative for displaced workers includes very reasonable rent. Thomas, who'd been frantically making calls, finally looked up. None of my contacts are responding. They're probably in the all-hands meeting, I explained, checking my watch. Learning about the company's new direction from my executive team. My phone buzzed. The board meeting was starting. On the wall-mounted screen, headlines were rolling in. Tech prodigy acquires family firm. Parker Technologies expands empire. Anderson Properties undergoes historic leadership change. This isn't what Dad wanted, Michael tried one last time. Actually, Mr. Harrison interjected, there's a video message from your father recorded last month. The screen flickered to life, showing Dad in his hospital room. He looked tired but had that familiar stubborn set to his jaw. If you're watching this, he began, then Parker Technologies has successfully acquired Anderson Properties. Emma. He paused. You did exactly what you said you would. Built something bigger than I could imagine. While I was busy doubting you, you were busy proving me wrong. Michael sank back into his chair as Dad continued. The company goes to the most capable heir. That was always the plan. I just never expected. He chuckled weakly, never expected to be acquired by my own daughter. Well played, Emma. Well played. The video ended. Diana was openly crying now, probably calculating her reduced circumstances. Thomas had stopped trying to make calls. Michael stared blankly at his now useless company credit cards. The severance packages are generous, I said, standing. And yes, Michael, there are entry-level positions available. In the IT department. You'll need to learn to code. You can't expect us to actually work, Diana protested. No, I expect you to leave, I corrected. The severance is conditional on your resignation. Though you're welcome to reapply through normal channels. The intern program is quite competitive. My phone buzzed again. My helicopter was waiting on the roof to take me to the board meeting. Mr. Harrison will handle the remaining details. I have a company to run. As I reached the door, Michael found his voice. How long? He demanded. How long have you been planning this? I turned back, thinking of all the family dinners where they'd mocked my career, all the condescending comments about finding a rich husband, all the times they'd dismissed my success as luck or a phase. Remember 5 years ago when you told me to get a real job? I smiled. I did. I got several thousand of them, actually. They're called employees now. The helicopter's blades were audible through the windows, drowning out their protests. On my tablet, the company's stock was soaring as news of the acquisition spread. Oh, and Diana? I added. You'll need to clear out of the mansion by Friday. The new corporate training center opens Monday. Walking toward the helipad, I passed the wall of former CEOs, all men, all bearing the Anderson name. By tomorrow, they'd be replaced by a single portrait. Mine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting ahead, way ahead, while others are too busy looking down to see you rising. My phone lit up with a final message. Anderson Properties signage being updated to Parker Technologies worldwide. In the helicopter, rising above the city my father had built and I had transformed, I opened my laptop to begin the board meeting. On the screen, Michael's desperate email flashed. Please, it's my whole life. I typed a quick response. No, it's mine now. But the intern applications are open. Hope you found a rich sister. Below, the Anderson Properties logo was already being replaced on buildings across the skyline. Tomorrow, the real changes would begin, transforming the old boys club into a merit-based technology powerhouse. Dad's portrait would be reinstalled in the lobby, but with a new caption. Founded by Richard Anderson. Revolutionized by Emma Parker. Sometimes the best way to honor a legacy is to completely reinvent it. And sometimes the richest revenge is simply succeeding beyond anyone's wildest doubts. The helicopter banked toward Parker Technologies headquarters, where my real family, the thousands of employees who'd helped build this empire, waited to begin our next chapter. After all, the best gold digger isn't the one who marries into wealth. It's the one who builds her own mine.